Well, we're live, boys and girls, with Scott is the only one that showed up. What in the
Man.
Am I invisible? What is wrong with you people?
Maybe we wore it off.
I sent out a whole bunch of invites. Nobody loves me tonight. It's gonna be an awful short Saturday night at the Atheist. If
that's short, that's show business, baby.
That's show business. So I don't know. I got this thing from Ken Ham today. I thought this was entertaining. Nashville Church, the Bible isn't the Word of God.
Oh man.
Yes.
I guess that's the apocalypse. You know, they're on the close to the Madrid fault. They better watch out.
Yes.
Sorry, it's the New Madrid fault.
So Ken Ham says this church released a provocative message or a heretical message. Oh my God, it's Danny. This heresy is progressive Christianity is what they're pushing back against. As progressive Christians, we're open to the tensions and inconsistencies in the Bible. We know that it can't live up to the impossible modern standards. We strive to be more clearly articulate what Scripture is and what it isn't. And here they have, basically, the Bible isn't the Word of God, self-interpreting, a science book, an answer rule book, inherent or infallible. I think probably Ken Ham created this. A product of the community, a library of texts, multivocal, a human response to God, living and dynamic.
I really wouldn't expect Ken Ham to use those kinds of words.
Yeah, maybe it's theirs. So I kind of like the one on the right. I don't know. I think that's pretty cool. So, but anyway, they go on and they talk about, they quote some scripture, sanctify them in the truth. Your word is truth. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever. But did he mean it to be, did he say the literal word of our God? I don't think he did.
Right.
I don't know what is up with this literalism. It's going to, it makes Christianity kind of yucky. What do you think, Danny? Does it make Christianity yucky to be literal?
It's harder to defend, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. Yep. In an interview regarding the post, Pastor Josh Scott stated, "There's stuff in the Bible that I think really goes against the character of God. There are genocides that have been divinely sanctioned in the Bible. People have used the text in the Bible, saying the Bible is inerrant and infallible. It absolves us of our responsibility to do what our ancestors did, which is to wrestle with the word, and interpret it. And if you look at some of those genocides as parables or stories, rather than look at them as literal genocides, then you kind of got God off the hook on that shit, right?"
Indeed.
I don't know. It just seems like it's, I don't know. Okay, it seems this pastor sees his own words rather than God's words as infallible, as he twists, misinterprets, and decimates the truly infallible word of God, which is kill some shit.
Send money to Kentucky so that we can somehow solve the problem of progressive Christianity in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah. And one thing I noted up here at the top is that Ken's name appears 9 times on the first page, and then it goes, and then down below they have a place where you can donate, which is, what do they have here? The Bible isn't the word of God. Is your baby racist? Oh boy, that ought to be good. Maryland schools promote idea of racist babies. What the fuck? Oh, this is pretty good. This is rich. Should we click on that?
I think the whole idea is get them outraged and then get them to click on that give button.
Look at the little racist babies.
Aren't they cute little racist babies?
Cute little racist baby. They're so cute.
I like babies.
I like babies too.
Babies are sweet.
atheists like babies deep fried, and we eat babies. Maryland schools promote idea of racist baby. What the hell are they talking about? Is your baby racist? Well, Maryland School District seems to think so. They released a graphic that stated they're not too young to talk about race, along with facts about children and how. What are they talking about? Are they talking about like trying to educate kids when they're young?
No, they're just basically looking at their gaze at different ages. Basically, at birth, babies have a hard time distinguishing between themselves and the world around them.
Okay.
But they react to faces, and then, as would be expected, babies would look more at faces of those that are like their parents. Then they would become the in group because they're the ones that provide for them. So I don't think this is saying racist babies. I think it's more like tribalism. If you're in my family, or if you're in kind of the greater community of people that look like us, then babies are going to recognize them more.
I think what they're saying is that you're going to respond to the faces of your caregivers, which is what geese do, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see anything earth-shatteringly racist about this shit. Or I don't see the claim. Cherry picking.
Well, yeah, we would have to look at whatever article they're referring to see if it does.
Right. It's pretty rich. Hang on a second here. I may have a email. Let's see. Okay, let me just see if I have permission here.
Hello, Jorge. How's it going, man?
Howdy. You guys hear me okay?
Yes, I do hear you. Okay.
I'm cleaning out some of my guns, so I'm not like wearing my microphone right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll keep those guns clean.
So we got a few things here from, let's see. We got a couple of things that I want to show. And one of them would be, what is this one? Why is that so huge? I don't know. Okay, so this is on Raw Matt's channel. They did this thumbnail. And I forget what okay, this is wonderful. Now, David Neff, who has been very gracious and gone on their channel multiple times, promoted them and talked to them very decently. So this is how they responded to him.
Hi, Leo.
And David doesn't really give a shit. He kind of likes the image, I guess.
Do you need to go outside?
This just came on our radar. SFT debates Dr. Dan and Queen David Neff. So this was on Raw Matt, the Fruit Bats channel. So he put that up. And then this is one of their comments. Young Earth Creation. That's Raw Matt, the Fruit Bat. And if it wasn't for Erica being a girl who atheists never encountered in their lives, she wouldn't have any. They're referring to how many views she gets. So they're basically claiming that because she's a girl, she gets views, right?
Oh,
a little bit sexist, I'd say.
Just a teeny,
right? And something else interesting. This is Standing for Truth responding to Atheist Junior. And you want to read that?
Who, me? Sure.
Yeah, you.
I've had nothing but good things to say about my moderating. I've had nothing. I can really read. I really can. I've had nothing but good things said about my moderating. This includes feedback from many atheists. I think you're just probably a big whiny baby who needs to grow hair on his legs. I've wrestled, won numerous medals. I've coached wrestling. I've done kickboxing, boxing, and judo for years. Why am I telling you all this? Well, it's because I know a pussy ass bitch when I see one, and you are definitely one. Get off my channel. Don't talk to me again. No, to somebody named Atheist Junior.
Oh,
he's a YouTube creator. I see him on Twitter a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, nice guy. He is a nice guy. What's happening, everyone? Leo.
Danny changed his icon.
Oh my God, he looks even like more aggravating.
It looks like he's in the middle of a staring contest.
Yeah, I think so. Green eyes. Do you have green eyes, Danny?
No, but they turn green when I get evil.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that they glow too a little bit. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that side of you, Danny. Anyway, okay, what's happening with The Rock?
Scott, did you see the Law stuff? You said you were. I didn't.
Yeah,
That's
I
the only reason
watched
I'm
it
asking.
before I started watching
Yeah,
Nick in Time or whatever that Johnny Depp movie was. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked his comments and stuff.
Nice.
Yes. I watched a bit of it and then I fell asleep and woke up a couple times and heard a few things and seemed pretty cool. Seemed like a really good talk. I'll have to watch it when I'm fully awake.
I also watched part of that Brainbug Otangelo talk, and I will finish it. I'm not quite done, but I'll finish it out of loyalty to Brainbug.
That talk inspired the thumbnail for today's thing. You get it, right? Worms coming out of the Jello, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You get it? Good. You guys got it.
I get it. I don't know about the rest.
You got it. You got to get it. If you don't get it. Is there anything in that talk worth looking at, or, should we spot around? Or
I don't think I got to the point where it was too contentious or anything. I don't know if it was. Brian is a kind of a mellow fellow, it seems. So I don't know if it'll get contentious or not.
Yeah, I don't think so. Brian is really, really pretty good at being mellow, but he can be very, very poignant. Sometimes he can really just needle in there or stab you or stab things. He does it every now and then, but he does it so well. I mean, he's so
like a wasp with a stinger.
He is so much better than I. He's such a much better man than I.
Or a scorpion with its tail.
Yep.
Leo, what's up, man?
Right. Hi, Leo. Well, you're so quiet, Leo. What's up?
Yeah, I'm looking at stuff on the RuneScape wiki, even though I don't have access to my account.
RuneScape, holy crap.
I wonder if my headphones are going to let me down tonight. Yeah, I did not listen to any of this, so I have no idea what happens or how it pans out. But if we're not going to do anything else, I got a feeling it's going to be a short show tonight. Everybody seems a little bit dead.
I'm not dead. I'm just waiting for more stimulating discussion to take place. I figured more people would be here.
If you want.
Okay, you're going to have to yell.
I can tell you about the musket I'm cleaning if you want.
Oh, yeah. Do tell. You're cleaning a musket?
I'll put this guy on then. Yeah, I'm in a black powder shooting group. I recently got myself a Italian Zouave musket made in the early 70s. I took it out, threw a couple 58 caliber balls downrange with it. Very fun.
Yeah.
Nice.
Does it smoke a lot when you fire it? Is it like a big cloud of smoke?
Oh yeah. Yeah, my friend used to he was paralyzed, so he could hunt from his car, and he had a huge musket, and he'd drive along and he'd see a deer and he would shoot, and he said you couldn't see the deer anymore. All you heard is a whoop and you knew you hit it.
Yeah, this gun's fun to shoot because the 58 caliber ball is gigantic, Yeah. So whenever you hit a target, like it hits the target. It's pretty fun.
It must be. Yeah, but he could actually hear the ball hit the deer.
Yeah, it makes it literally like punches it, right? These things don't pierce, they punch.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy was really funny. He poached deer constantly. So this one time he shot a deer with that musket, and he put it on the hood of his car, or on the fender of his car. And he came home and he was like all excited. And he was like just beaming. It was like the first time that he didn't have to put the deer in the trunk and hide it. He actually shot a legal deer during deer season.
which hardly ever happened. He was a funny guy, and he died.
I would say if you plan on getting into black powder shooting, it does take a lot if you get an antique gun like I got. So
Yeah.
it does take a lot of cleaning. I've been running patches through this thing for about 10 minutes.
Nice. I have a raccoon attack happening at the moment.
Want me to bring a musket over?
Yeah. Well, no, not my raccoons. I love them.
Whose raccoon is being attacked?
Oh, my raccoons are attacking me.
Oh, well.
Yeah, they're up on the fence. Let me look over here and see what. Yeah, yep, staring at me through the window.
Incursion?
Huh?
You're having an incursion of raccoons?
Oh, quite a few of them. I have not fed them yet today. They're going to get a little wild and a little unruly.
They seem so entitled.
They do.
You'd think they'd buy you a gift every once in a while.
They remind me of a frequent guest on this show. Oh my God, what are they doing? They're trying to take my fence apart out there. Son of a bitch, I can see them. Oh, this is horrible.
And they're not afraid.
I'm going to step away and feed these guys before they... What the fuck?
Play the Otangelo clip before you go so we have something to do.
God damn it, Immutable. Let me put you in the show.
I'm trying to add myself, you damn asshole.
Oh, fuck you. There you go. Now you're out.
How's everything going?
Not much happening currently.
We're contemplating playing the conversation between Otangelo and Brainbug. Was it
I didn't know that happened.
today
What
or
happened?
the day before?
I think it was
Well,
today, yeah.
Yeah, they had a discussion about, and I'm not quite sure what the controversy was about it in the side chat earlier when Otangelo popped in, but I don't know if it had to do with this video or not. But it was basically, is God necessary? Is God necessary?
Was
Something like
was Math Pig moderating this discussion?
Yes, he moderated it.
Yes, this is a mirror from a debate that they had, or more a discussion that they had on Math Pig's channel about a week or so ago.
Okay.
Oh. Let's say Brainbug posted it recently, but it's a mirror. Okay.
Oh, okay. 10 raccoons tonight.
Am I kind of disappointed that Angelo hasn't really developed any new arguments?
Yeah, most of them don't. There's one. And I'm not talking like professional apologists. I'm speaking in terms of those that you see on YouTube. There's one of them that I know of that will try to make different arguments or improve arguments that he already has, and that's IP, Inspiring Philosophy. I literally do not know of any other apologist on YouTube who tries to change their arguments or improve them or add to their cache. Not a single one that I can name anyway.
Wait, what
I
about
respect
IP?
that. IP tries to change his arguments and create new arguments that are just as stupid as his original.
Why is your mic really popcorn?
Yeah.
Crackly.
Popping.
That IP does
look.
what?
Me or him? Me or Dan?
Is Danny just not listening or what?
That he adds to the. I'm sorry.
Michael
Can you
Jones
just-
from Inspiring Philosophy,
Yeah.
said, is the only YouTube apologist that I could name, at least, that actively tries to improve his arguments or add new arguments to his cache. I said this because Immutable said, "Does anybody see Otangelo ever change his arguments?" And I said, "No."
Is that why he's creating new arguments? That's why they're probably so bad.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't. His arguments aren't absolutely horrendously terrible. They've got problems, but I mean, if
Oh,
we're
I thought they
talking
were.
argument-
When I was a Christian, I thought they were bad arguments.
If we're talking arguments for God's existence, his arguments are actually better than most other arguments that I've heard of.
Oh, really? That's
Otangelo?
interesting.
No,
Oh.
IP.
Oh, IP.
Yeah, he was interesting, and he had some depth. I listened to him about a year ago, so I should catch up. So we're just
Don't
doing
go into a
music.
debate with IP if you don't know what you're talking about, because you will get romped if you do. He's a very skilled debater. He does his homework. Not saying that he can't be wrong on things, or that he hasn't been, but he does his homework before debates.
Well, I could debate one of my raccoons. Oh boy, is that a Freudian slip? And I would get romped. Basically, I just don't know. My heart is not in debates at all.
It could have been a while since I've like dealt with IP's arguments, but it's a lot of his arguments seem to be kind of like dressed in a very fancy word salad.
Hey, Mutable, you should leave and come back, or throw your mic away and buy a new one, or figure
Why,
out
what's
what's
up?
going on.
It sounds like you're talking to us underwater in a cartoon.
Oh,
No,
Jesus.
worse, you're like, it's scratchy and
Yeah, it's as I described it. It sounds like you're speaking underwater in a cartoon.
yeah, it's really bad. Can't hear a thing you're saying.
Instead of going over Otangelo for the 5 millionth time, do you want to go over some whoever the dude Leo was talking about? Maybe watch that
IP.
video instead.
You find a video. Let's watch it.
Because Otangelo is, as you said, copy paste the same sentence 58 times.
Didn't he talk about a whole bunch of supernatural stuff in this one though? Like
Any better?
No, that debate was not anything removed from what Otangelo normally talks about at all. Like, at all. I mean, if we listen to this video, of Otangelo, yeah, it's a lot better. It'll be the same song and the same verse, but a little bit louder and a little bit worse. Because that's all that describes Otangelo. Every time. Same song, same verse, but a little bit louder and a little bit worse.
Yeah. Oh, my cats are conspiring. I don't know what they're talking about.
Do you know a good inspiring prophecy video, Leo?
Philosophy?
Philosophy. Sorry.
Do I have a favorite?
Yeah, like one that you.
I can't remember what the title of it is, so give me a second to go to his channel.
So I don't know the dude, so
he's got. The thing is in his videos, he actually gives you meat to respond to, which is one of the reasons why I like his videos.
Creepy.
Who's echoing?
Not me.
Not me.
Somebody's echoing back there.
I blame Danny.
Don't know. Danny's muted, and so
I still blame Danny.
So it's I know it's Danny's fault. So anyway, here's Inspiring Philosophy's channel.
His playlist, The Quantum God, is the most interesting playlist. There's 13 videos in it. I've watched a few of them.
How about the irreducible mind?
Yes, my favorite video is Quantum Physics Debunks Materialism version 2, because he did an argument. He did a video on that, and then I think just kind of buffed it and re-released it. But that one's a pretty good. The digital physics argument for God's existence is another. That's actually an interesting argument. It's not a sound argument, but it is an interesting argument, but it's got problems with it.
Here's Irreducible Mind. Looks pretty entertaining. What do you think? Quantum biology?
I mean, this isn't anything new in terms of like the arguments that are given for the mind being. See, inspiring philosophy is a lot like praise. He's a subjective idealist. Like, he thinks that the universe is fundamentally the result of information processing in an immaterial mind, and that mind is God.
Gotcha. So you want to listen to any of it?
Sure.
No, I really don't want to lose brain cells to quantum physics being just adulterated and like really.
He actually doesn't completely butcher it. Most of the physics is accurate. It's just the conclusions that he argues from that information are very non sequitur. They don't really follow.
Yeah,
I think
that's the thing. Go ahead.
I think like the standard argument I hear from people like regarding quantum mechanics is biological systems have components that are quantum mechanically based. Quantum mechanics needs an observer to for the system to be real. Therefore, there must be something at the there must be something which realizes that realizer is God.
Oh, he doesn't do that, does he?
Inspiring philosophy? Yes. Inspiring philosophy is a consciousness causes collapse individual.
Oh my god. Oh, that's.
And he thinks that the
wrong,
delayed
he's also
choice
not right.
quantum eraser experiment shows that it does, which it doesn't. I'd have to go through the video, but he debated. What's his name? He's an ex-Muslim. They had this debate on capturing Christianity like a month or so ago, a month and a half. God, what is his name? It's not the owner. It's not the guy that runs Atheist Republic. I can't think of his name, but he slightly modified his digital physics argument. But he gave a number of experiments done in quantum mechanics. One of them was the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment. I can't remember the names of the other two, and was trying to argue that they showed that consciousness is required for wave function collapse. None of the experiments actually show that, and the thing is, the weird thing about him is he says that he subscribes to the Copenhagen interpretation, but believes that consciousness causes collapse, which is not the Copenhagen interpretation. That's the von Neumann-Wigner interpretation, which is something that I find weird. The other thing that's weird about this whole consciousness causes collapse argument that people give for there being some irreducible mind and that's God is that in the actual like real world universe, wave function collapse is not something that really ever occurs. Systems evolve unitarily in time as defined by the time-dependent Schrödinger equation, where the structure of the wave function evolves with respect to time, but it doesn't actually ever collapse. So that's something that and that's how people that make that argument, you can distinguish very quickly from people who actually have an understanding of the physics and those who are just parroting things they've heard from other people.
That sounds very similar, like to the Evertarian framework, though, because a lot of people.
Yes, that's one of the reasons why the Everettian model has been gaining in people who has been gaining support, even though it's still not. I mean, I wonder if it will ever overtake the Copenhagen interpretation.
I think so. When people start realizing that the Copenhagen interpretation just raises more questions than it does answer. I mean,
that would depend on how you look at it. Because a lot of physicists that utilize it don't think that the questions that are asked are actually questions worth asking.
Well, I mean, the question of measurement, like what constitutes like a measurement, per se.
Interaction with a quantum system.
Yeah, but it seems to be more specific than that, though.
I think a better question would be, why does measurement seem to affect a system, and why does how it affects a system depend on the particular method or way with which you're measuring the system?
Well, I mean, part of that is because interactions of particles cause quantization to occur.
Yes.
Right.
It was a prostate profit that he had in that debate. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the reason like it causes wave function collapse is because like when a photon interacts with a particle, like an electron in a valence shell or something like that, it forces like one of the possible states an electron's in to be discretized for a brief moment in time. Like it forces it to be either spin up or spin down, because it imparts energy on that particle, and that state is either moved into a state up or state down. And then it resorts back because the electron emits a photon of energy equivalent to the one it gained. So, I mean, to me, it's very simple why, measurement causes collapse. It's just, I don't know. I just don't like the Copenhagen model.
That's not what I clicked on, son of a bitch. That's not what I'm looking for either. Jesus Christ, this is insane.
Is Leo really quiet, or is it just me?
I was talking really quiet there for a second.
No. Okay.
Why are you talking?
How's it going, Brian?
Talking to yourself.
I'm going through this argument because there were things. Jesus fucking Christ, dude! The way that YouTube scrub bar works is complete and utter fucking shit.
Oh, they updated their Apple TV interface, and they made it so much worse that it's just killing me.
Thank you, for fuck's sake.
After 2 years, they finally updated it, and they made it almost unusable.
They don't have a way to command or control and then put in the seconds and take you right to that instant on the scrub bar either. Why the fuck not?
Lena has a question for you, Leo.
Sure. I said sure.
It's right there.
I'm not on StreamYard right now. I'm doing something, so you're gonna have to read it to me.
Which video of IP would you recommend, since he thinks that consciousness is required for WF collapse, waveform?
I would recommend my video that I did on wave function collapse.
I actually like that video too, Leo.
That's
Your
pretty
video
good.
on wave function is pretty good.
And I enjoyed your most recent Isengate thing.
Dr.
Eigenstate?
Eigenstate.
Eigenstate. I enjoyed it though. I didn't memorize it.
Okay, this is not. I want it from physical review letters.
What's happening?
Jesus fuck. Oh, no,
Hey,
there it is.
Brian, we were going to watch your Tangelo video. Is that a suggested thing to do or not?
Well, I guess that's technically that'd be my first debate ever. So yeah.
Anything worth looking at? Or
It's Otangelo, you know, he's got his.
That's
The
exactly what we
only
were saying.
thing
Yeah.
he doesn't believe in. The only thing he doesn't believe in is evolution.
We did get him to talk about demons and stuff, though. Which
yeah.
was
Oh, really?
interesting.
He did. Oh, that's
That was in the Q&A section, though. He didn't talk much about it, but he did touch on it a bit.
So he believes in demons and exorcism. He believes that the Earth is 6,000 years old. He believes in the Shroud of Turin.
Out of body
Noah's
experiences.
Ark.
That was a big talking point for our debate, was out of body experiences, because his whole argument for a mind without a body is based in out of body experience, because essentially he thinks that when people leave their body that they are a mind outside their body, which, you know, there's no grounding for that at all. But
I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but there is like one particular interesting data point that I do find curious about, like our perception of the world not being tied to the brain or to like our senses, and that is dreams. Like, where you're not perceiving anything yet, you are kind of like interacting with something.
Well, you want to differentiate whether there's an event of perception versus just experience.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, you're not perceiving the qualitative state itself is not perception. Perception, I just take it to be some kind of causal relation between the world and a belief.
Well,
The best way to
when I'm in a dream state, like the things I feel I'm perceiving there are just as real as the things I feel like I perceive in reality.
Given how I just construed perception, I don't think you're perceiving during a dream.
Yeah, you're not. There's a difference between something that is perceptive and something that is experiential.
Yeah,
Dreams are
you're just having
experiential, not
experiences, yeah.
perceptive.
I don't believe
everything
that
in
we
a dream,
dream.
every face that you see, every location that you've been, the brain picks those up from other things. Like every face that you've seen in a dream is the face of an actual person. The brain is actually really, really bad at being able to construct its own faces, even if you don't ever remember seeing that person.
yeah, all the imagery
Has that been proven?
Locations, rooms, and stuff that you're in, things might be mirrored or flipped or changed around, but it's all things that the brain has previously perceived that it is now re-experiencing, even if marginally changed. through that
Leo, is that something that's been like experimentally proven, or just something that's been like, how do you prove that
Like,
I've never dreamed something I haven't seen?
Like, for instance, have they studied, like, if a blind person, for instance, like in a state of dreaming, like that their brain states are, I guess I'll use the word building for lack of a better, for lack of a better word, but that their mind can construct like the image of a flower accurately.
I will eat my other cat if they ever prove that.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, what, like, if
It
that
does
were,
seem like an unprovable thing, yeah.
no, but I mean, like, if
What was
that were to be
unprovable?
the case, like, what would that imply?
What was unprovable? I missed it.
The thing is that we don't even know. Okay, what basically during the time that you're in like the dream state when everything's they can detect that state. We can't even prove that you actually dream the dream that you remember when you're in that state. The only thing we can prove is that there is a certain thing going on with your thalamus, and there's certain activity in your hippocampus and your cortex, and that activity has not been shown to be a coherent story. My idea, it is, I'm not ironclad on this, but it is possible that the place that you put together your dreams is when you are coming to consciousness. And for that first few seconds after you wake up, that's where you add the story to your dream, and that's where it becomes coherent.
Well,
prior to that, there's no evidence of coherence at all.
So what I've heard essentially is that the state of dreaming, what it's doing, like the reason it evolved or the reason it exists, is that it's integrating experiences like from that day and from other events in your life, and
Right, that happens.
And essentially,
that
it's doing like this kind of mental rehearsal kind of thing where it's replaying certain events over and over and trying to make sense of that information in order to prepare you for the next day.
Yeah, there's some evidence that it's going across your hippocampus and actually reading out like a series, like a sequences across your hippocampus, which is where you store pretty much your temporary memories for the day.
It's playing like mix and match with your memories, right? I mean,
yeah,
basically constructing like little narratives with your memories to kind of prepare your brain for how you can react to different things.
Yeah, and there's something else really important about this. The memory traces in your hippocampus that end up being integrated are the ones that happen with some emotional force. There was dopamine, or there was adrenaline, or there was something powerful emotionally happening, and that puts down a different kind of memory, and that ends up being integrated in your cortex. So if you see a predator, chasing you, you're gonna have fear, and that is going to be the content of your dream. And so, that's why people say don't show kids scary movies before you put them to bed.
Let me ask you guys something to see if this kind of correlates. Okay, so when you go to sleep, before your mind can start doing this, it needs to basically shut off your brain's control of your body, so you're not flailing around in your bed while you're sleeping, right?
Yeah, your thalamus goes into a mode of operation that keeps you from getting any sensory input or putting out any motor output.
Right. So, but when it does that, your brain also has to construct what you're perceiving as your body in your dream state, right? So that you're perceiving that you have your arms and your legs and you're moving around. Sometimes they don't work quite right. You can't run as fast as you would, or whatever. So the way that the mind is constructing that temporary body, can't we? I mean, isn't that really solid, good proof that these metaphysical concepts are existing within the brain, just that your brain can do that action in and of itself?
Kind of. There's something called the premotor cortex, which is where you plan your movements. But when you're doing that, you're actually firing those muscles. So they can put sensors on your muscles. So if you're thinking about saying a phrase, there's actually muscles in your face and your throat and everything that are kind of firing a little bit. But your premotor cortex sort of rehearses what you're going to do. And then your motor cortex gets the information, and then you do it next. But there's like a really amazing computer that's hooked up to your cerebellum that guides the actual motions and stuff. But you do premotor it. So what you're dreaming about is that in that premotor cortex. That is the part that's actually, but you're not actually firing the muscles when you're dreaming.
Brain science is fascinating. Wish I knew more about it.
It's pretty cool.
I know you're feeling.
So I mean, if you do recall something like that happened in a dream, but that dream, like, it's obviously like a figment of the imagination, what exactly are you recalling in that case?
Well, you're running through the integrated part. Okay, it integrates with your cortex, and that's where you have all these memories and this sense of what your arms are and where they are and all of this stuff. And so you're just running your memories. You're running shit that you know.
But there's parts of your brain that think you're actually moving though and interacting, aren't there? I mean, because you wake up from some dreams and it's like, oh, you didn't even realize this wasn't actually happening until you're sitting up in your bed.
Yeah. And some of that I think happens somewhere in between that dream state and that wake state. This putting together of, what happened. And then like if you have a really powerful nightmare, you will wake up because it scares the shit out of you. So it can actually override the thalamus. Because if a strong enough signal hits your sensory cortex, cortices, it will get through that thalamus block. That basically it'll be a real strong signal. So it's almost like if you've ever turned an amplifier up so that the music is distorting. Well, that's what your thalamus is doing while you're sleeping. It's in this, I think it's a atonic state, and it has to have a really strong signal to wake you up to get through it, which is kind of a mechanism that evolved to keep us from getting eaten while we were sleeping. So, but
Speed, question for you.
Which one?
Do you think that what's the phrase? Crap, I forgot my phrase. Like interpreting dreams, therefore, is something that's always useful. If the dream is literally like if your brain is prepping you based on your past for the future, like every dream should have an interpretation that's beneficial to you.
Well, if you can interpret your dreams to indicate what was important to you the day before you went to sleep. Nothing, not much else. Basically, it'll tell you what happened in your life that was emotional.
So yeah, exactly. So essentially, every dream you have, keeping a dream journal can kind of help you understand your day. Is that what you're trying to argue?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
So, I mean, I don't know if I asked this question, but if I did, I'll ask it again. So I remember the answer. So, if you were to take a blind person and put them in a brain scan thing, and there was evidence the person was that their mind essentially was forming the mental image of a flower accurately.
You could detect that in their visual cortex. In their primary visual cortex, we could detect that. Now, if they have never seen anything and we saw images in their primary visual cortex, that would be some really scary proof of something weird going on.
Right, but I mean, if the person was blind from birth, they can't, they can never see.
That's what I mean. That would be if we ever detect it, you can. I think the Japanese, they showed somebody movies of airplanes or something, and then they had them imagine the airplanes, and they were actually able to kind of read right out of your primary visual cortex. It's called an architectonic map. So it maps from your retina onto your cortex with a Cartesian map. The top is the top and the bottom is the bottom. You have to unfold it because it's kind of folded around those cortical, folds. But if you unfold it, and they do this with software, they could actually tell the guy that he was imagining an airplane or he was imagining something else because they could sort of see the image in his visual cortex. So this is an experiment that we can do with a completely blind person who has never had sight, and that would be interesting. And
that's freaking amazing. See, that's what I'm talking about. I wish I knew more about this stuff. I didn't. I knew that they could see what the last thing someone saw or whatever, that there were ways to look at the visual cortex for that, but I didn't know that it could be completely fabricated without any kind of visual input.
Well, you got to have some software to straighten it out, and the images are really bad, but they were able to detect the overall shape. And it was a pretty interesting experiment. And I don't have the paper or know where the paper is, but I bet you could find it if you Google Japanese and visual
you say the images were really bad, but think about where our video imaging was just 100 years ago and how fast we were able to clear that up. Who knows where we're going to go with this?
Yeah. And then the other thing about these architectonic maps is that I think there are 12 or 13 of them in your brain. Some of them are in your thalamus, and some of them are in your. There's two different streams for your cortex, and there are all these different visual maps, and I'm trying to figure out what they do. One of them is involved in just moving your eyes around real rapidly and looking at an image, and So there's a number of different maps, and it's really cool. And they all integrate. You know, they all kind of like collude and do some processing and get together again and come up with our world, basically, as we see it. Anyway.
Yeah, the mind's a really funky thing.
So, Brainbug, do you know of a place that we could listen to where we can hear Otangelo talk about demons, please?
That's way back, and it'd be towards the end there. I'm not sure what the timestamp would be. It's in the Q&A section, though.
Okay.
How'd you feel? I can't remember if you answered this, Brainbug. How'd you feel you did with this?
I don't know.
By the way, you
have
had the best
self-assess.
overlay. You had the best overlay out of any.
You had what?
Brainbug has the best overlay.
Overlay?
The frames,
Frames
Yeah.
around the pictures.
The overlay that you're seeing there is from, I believe, Math Pig's channel, not.
Yeah, that's that.
I wasn't
That's not mine,
specific,
yeah.
but his background, like the background of his camera, is the best. Like it's this.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a real background.
Yeah, that's just called.
That's a real
That's
background.
literally what's behind me. Yeah,
There's really bugs back there. Real bugs.
lots of them.
Yep.
Does your wife
They're
like
just
all
kind of
those
like
bugs? Brian, does your wife like all those bugs in the house?
Yeah, she doesn't care, and no, it
That's
doesn't
good.
bother her. Unless one of them gets out, then she gets a little miffed. But usually they turn up within a few weeks.
you and her go on any bug hunting trips?
I always bring little cups with me and stuff when we go hiking.
Oh, there we go.
If I can snag something to talk about, I actually snapped some good pictures today. It was about almost 70 degrees out today. It was so nice. We had mountains of snow out there, and now we got beautiful blue skies, and there's little bugs crawling around in the grass. So I got some pictures.
Sweet.
So when I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 years old, I had a microscope, and I decided that I was going to cut a cubic foot of the forest out in the middle of the winter. It was like frozen, and I had to dig for hours to actually cut out this big 1 foot cubed chunk of dirt, and I brought it into my bedroom. And of course, it was 30 below outside, right? And I was going to study this piece of earth and learn everything about it with my microscope. And then, of course, I went out and played, and then it thawed out. And I think my mother was alerted to the problem when bugs started leaping down the stairs, and like things started hatching out of this thing. And it's like, Mikey, get your ass in here! What did you do?
Nice.
Yeah, that actually happened just last week. We bought some new plants. They just like came off the truck shipping them in. Bought some new plants, and they'd been in the cold and everything, and brought them in and put them in our house, and all the flies and stuff that were sleeping in there or had laid their eggs in there all hatched and started swarming our living room.
Yeah.
So are there any
I
indigenous?
got a banana plant in my room right now with that exact problem. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So are there any like indigenous species like in your area that you're not allowed to hunt or like collect?
There's stuff. Yeah, there are endangered species here. I don't usually keep anything permanently. I usually either get it to bring it back here so I can take good pictures of it and then just kind of let it go. So I don't generally keep anything. There's a couple of things that I've kept. I've kept wheel bugs. They're like big assassin bugs, but they're pretty abundant. There are endangered species, and I've actually I have to look back through my pictures and see if I can find. I've taken pictures of a couple of endangered species. A mole cricket is a endangered species that's really cool to find and get a chance to look at.
So do you ever like have them like breed and like?
What's that?
Who's stapling
No.
things?
I
working on a
finished
musket.
cleaning my other musket, so I was just cycling it.
I was gonna ask, like, do you like have them breed? Like, well, are you allowed to like, breed endangered species of bugs, or is it kind of like a no-no?
I tried to do that this last spring. I tried to do that with the big red stag beetles that we have here in Illinois. They were really like in August, they got like crazy abundant. They were everywhere. So I did collect. I collected 2 males and a female to try to see if I could get them to do their ritual thing, and they just wouldn't. They weren't having it.
That's always fucking weird.
You know the ritual I'm talking about, where the 2 males will sit there and posture and raise their mandibles, and the female will watch and get all excited about it, and then the males will wrestle, and whichever one throws the other one off, then he gets the female and does his thing.
Yeah, it's always really bugs that have this kind of like weird game of gladiator type of thing.
Yeah, the only thing that I think, the only animal group that I think is more interesting to watch with their mating rituals than insects is birds. Birds have some crazy dances, and
humans don't win that one for you.
You know, I think I can do better for you. I think humans are a little more fascinating. Humans will go to an extreme length to mate.
I mean, I will say that I do watch more human mating rituals than I do animal mating rituals.
That's the other 97% of the internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some like bizarre mating rituals for humans that I've seen, and it's kind of like, God bless if aliens do investigate this planet, and then the first thing they come across is like Pornhub or whatever. That's going to be an interesting explanation. So humans, new life in the
Humans, gotta love them, gotta hate them. It's just wild.
God, what the fuck is wrong with the species? They do so many weird things.
Are you watching any of this video?
Are you watching Angelo explain demons?
Well, somebody got to give me a clue.
Well, I watched it up till about 1 hour, and Otangelo had talked about exorcism before that, I think.
Oh man. So he like,
oh yeah, he said he'd seen somebody that was possessed, and we didn't get into it. I kind of wanted to, but
so I mean, like, he believes in like real demons, not the. Oh wow, so he doesn't. Oh wow, man, Catholicism must make you believe some weird shit.
So once again, to recount, he believes in demons and exorcism. He believes in the Shroud of Turin. He believes the Earth is 6,000 years old. He believes that Noah's Ark has been found. And I've run out of things, but I think there's more.
He believes in magic, literally magic.
So he probably thinks that like when we reject or think like abiogenesis is possible, he probably thinks like we're demon possessed.
I do believe in possession. A couple of times I went out on a Friday night and didn't come back home till Tuesday, and that goddamn woman was possessed when I got home.
I mean, that and hardcore cocaine.
There was a demon in her. I've never seen anybody scream like that.
I mean, you must have purified her.
I had to exorcise her. Yeah, it took a couple of weeks to do that. But anyway, that's another story. You want me to play a little bit of this?
Sure.
Something that I posted in the chat straight after that. So as you said, it's our conclusions on the evidence that we infer from. Find.
Where can we find stuff?
All the so many questions. Right. Question for Antonzo. If he could explain necessity and how he has determined that your God is necessary.
So should I spot around until we find something?
Just explain necessity.
That cause, since something cannot come from absolutely nothing.
Pardon? What time is it there? Midnight?
From Ricardo. What is operational science?
No.
A lot of questions.
I want to find the demon stuff.
I didn't understand your question.
Okay. So are you using, are you prescribing the materials, telling every material what it does and building them and having the machine built that way?
Okay.
Problem solving.
That's
and
a
once
factory
I have
crap. He gets into that a little bit.
Yeah. Any idea where the demon stuff is?
It's scattered throughout, man. I tried to get him to say some stuff when we were talking. Tried to get him to elaborate on it, but he would like dip into it and then kind of pull back. But that's Scott. You watched the beginning part, and that kind of what you got from it is that he kind of mentioned something in it, and then he
believes that out of body experiences prove
near-death experiences.
God can be a non-corporeal being or whatever.
So he tried
to talk about demon possession and being witness to exorcisms and stuff.
So Scott, see if you can help me make this make sense. He tried to explain to me once in a live chat, and I get it. 200 characters in the text isn't necessarily like the best way to have a conversation. But he tried to explain to me like people that apparently people that have near-death experiences like don't have like brains or something like that.
Right. Yeah, because your brain, I guess, it remains in your body when supposedly your spirit leaves your body.
Apparently. I mean, like, the really fun thing about the spirit and like, the spirit houses the memories of the body. Okay, well, if that's the case, why is it that like when certain portions of the mind or brain are damaged, rather, like the hippocampal region and the amygdala, that you lose certain aspects of control you normally have, like emotional regulation and the ability to store memories?
Yeah, the hippocampus, you can't remember anything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of bizarre. So like for some reason,
I've heard people try to explain it that when it's inside your body, the brain can interfere with your memory, but I guess you have to be released from the body. I don't know. I can't explain the silly.
The soul has no trouble dealing with memories while the hippocampus is active, but for some reason, like when the hippocampus gets damaged, it's just all fucked.
Yeah,
interesting.
So Capgras syndrome is really interesting.
It really is.
There's damage to one part of your brain. This one guy, his wife would call him up when he was in the hospital, and he'd talk to her, and it's like, hi, honey, and all that stuff, and get along really well. But when he saw his wife, he did not believe it was really her. He believed it was an imposter. So anything that he saw, like this neuroscience, I think it was V.S. Ramachandran or the Rama, basically went and visited him. And he was showing the neuroscientist his desk, and he said, look at this desk. It has a watermark here, just like my other desk, just like my real desk, but this is not my desk. So he just it was absolutely impossible for him to believe that what he was looking at was actually the thing that he was looking at. He thought somebody had switched it out on him. And he thought his wife was an imposter, and he almost got violent with her when she was in person. Yet he could talk to her on the phone and believe it was her, but not visually. He couldn't see her and believe it was her. And there's just a ton of injuries like that are just incredible. There's people that can't swear. There's people that can't talk. They can only swear.
So Atangelo has kind of like a mental block equivalent when we try to explain to him that the cell isn't a machine, but he's like very convinced that the cell is a machine, despite only understanding a very, very small, like minuscule part of cell biology.
I wonder if he believes neurons are machines. And
I think he thinks everything's are machines. I wonder if he thinks like atoms and molecules are machines.
Atoms and molecules
all the way down, baby.
Complex.
Say that again. You kind of.
Atoms and molecules are irreducibly complex.
Well, they are described by wave function, and they are kind of complex. I'm not sure about irreducibly complex.
Well, I mean, like a 45-degree angle is a machine, so it being a machine is not all that impressive, really.
And it can be an irreducibly complex machine. No, I'm just fucking around.
Yep.
I mean, every function is a machine because it takes something and fucks something out.
How about you get the fuck out of my head and quit saying what I'm about to say, huh?
I'm just look.
Immutable is possessed.
I'm possessed by mathematics. It's like one of the greatest things to be possessed by.
That is true.
And you start speaking in tongues too when you talk about it.
This save.
You start getting into like weird fucking paradoxes.
Yes, yes.
Like what's called Liam might have heard this. What's something called the Banach-Tarski paradox?
I know the name Banox. I don't know why, but apparently it's pronounced with an X on the end. It's not spelled that way. Don't ask me. I had a professional correct me on it, and I said, don't know where he's from, don't really care, but whoever invented that language is a fucking troglodyte.
Yeah, you can look up what's called the Banach-Tarski paradox on
I feel like I have heard that. Tarski?
Tarski, Tarski.
Yes, Banach-Tarski paradox.
Essentially, it's a mathematical conjecture about rearrangement. So you can have a finite number of objects, like in a jar or container or something like that, in a very particular arrangement, and you can associate like a certain value to that entity. But if you change the arrangement of particles relative to each other, it's possible to have a very different like value of the overall sequence, despite nothing being changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the way.
Yeah, the example that Wikipedia gives is, given a solid ball in three-dimensional space, there exists a decomposition of the ball into a finite number of disjoint subsets, which can then be put back together in a different way to yield two identical copies of the original ball. Where the fuck? Because I watched a video from somebody that talked about this. Was that physics videos by Eugene Kartyovsky? I don't fucking know. But
the one I'm thinking of is Vsauce. He doesn't.
I don't. It wouldn't have been Vsauce. Not that he's bad. I just don't watch Vsauce. I don't know why. I just haven't ever really looked into his videos. I probably should.
They're pretty good, honestly. They're a little cringe, but they're pretty good. That time.
So this is about choices and what the hell is it? Oh, what is that called? The choice theorem.
Axiom of choice.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, the doubling the ball thing.
This other example that they give is really funny. A stronger form of the theorem implies that given any two reasonable, and they have that in quote, solid objects, the cut pieces of either one can be reassembled into the other. This is often stated informally as a pea can be chopped up and reassembled into the sun and called the pea and the sun paradox.
Yeah, fuck these mathematicians.
They're out of control, man.
They're out of control. They're possessed.
It's an interesting conjecture if it's correct, though.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, definitely.
So who's Nectonius? He's new. I think is he being facetious or?
Human body is a chest full of treasures, and bounty. The deeper you dig, the more you fascinate yourself. One point you realize there's obviously a creator behind this irreducibly complex mechanism.
Wait a minute, he's a serial killer?
I don't know.
The deeper you dig, I don't think that's a good idea.
I mean,
his channel does not promote that.
Look, I'm just saying, if you go digging in Jeffrey Dahmer's like backyard, I'm sure you'll find some shit there.
If you dig into the human body, basically you get arrested for that shit. We don't. This channel does not condone that.
No,
hey, I'm sorry. On that video, if you go to like 18 minutes, I think Brian and Otangelo are talking about out-of-body experiences.
Let me just double check on you.
I've had what I would call like 2 out-of-body experiences, and they're kind of like surreal.
Yeah. Okay, I'll share that again.
Holy fucking shit. This has got to be a year-long course because this is a lot of fucking lectures. Wow.
Which one? Oh, you found a lecture on
I'm
that?
on MIT 8.06 Quantum Physics 3. No, holy shit! Well, they must meet 2 or 3 times a week then, because it says spring 2018. Dude, they've got. Let me just scroll down. 100 fucking lectures. Because I was looking for
Really?
because I want to understand perturbation theory a little bit more deeply. And I figure I really like MIT's OpenCourseWare lectures, and I had before any. They've got MIT 8.04 quantum physics 1, 8.05 quantum physics 2, and 8.06 quantum physics 3. They don't talk about perturbation theory until QP3. So, yeah, which perturbation theory isn't like super complex, but, well, it depends on how you use it. In a quantum field theoretical perspective, yeah, it's pretty complex.
I mean, yeah, perturbation theory in and of itself isn't complex. How you use it is complex.
Yeah. It's kind of like that with a lot of math, though. The math itself isn't complex, but unless you're talking like pure math, then that can get, you have to be like deep in there, then it can get a little.
Unless you're talking about, does the Riemann zeta function only have zeros like for the real part of the function being equal to a half? I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, rain check on that one.
Oh, if you're not familiar with that, like it's some stuff in
It's what?
It's a like the Riemann zeta function, and the question about like prime numbers is a question like very deeply concerned like with what's called like analytic number theory.
You said it deals with prime numbers, huh?
Yeah, the prime numbers and their density.
I know who to talk to about that then. Good old Landon Kirtnell.
Yeah, if you bring up the Riemann zeta hypothesis, you'll know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah,
it's basically something all mathematicians at least kind of are familiar with.
Yeah, Landon also broke 2 world records for largest prime number discovered before he graduated from high school. So it comes to prime numbers. Landon's your guy.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, page not found on your link for some reason. I don't know why.
What is this?
He added another one.
No. It's wait, which one? Because if you're looking at the really big one, that's 2 links. There's a PANS.
Yeah, the first one. The second one's the I tried to put both of them in there, and it didn't.
Actually, 3 links.
Ooh, repeated co-options of exoskeleton formation during wing to electron. How do you say that? Electron?
Winged.
Yeah, Andrew was asking earlier if I had anything on evolution shown in the wing development of insects and beetles, and I wanted to.
I think you showed that to me before.
Yeah, we looked at that.
Yeah,
I think it was one of our very first interactions. I came in and we looked at that together.
Yep.
Memories. Sorry.
Memories.
Yeah.
Okay, should I play this little part for Otangelo?
Go for it.
Let's see if we got anything in there.
Angelo.
Okay. We're doing it.
But I think the key point here is that these experiments demonstrate that it is possible for the mind to leave the physical body and actually to exist without the physical body. That is the key point. Again, granting that
they're human souls and they're attached to the person, do we actually have evidence that they can exist beyond that? Because every case of an out-of-body experience that I'm familiar with, the person wakes up and goes back into their body, so to speak. So we don't know that granting the premise that there is a soul and that their soul is leaving the body, that still doesn't demonstrate that if that body dies, that soul is still allowed to roam. I mean, unless you want to get into ghost stories, which I don't think that's what we came here to talk about. But
of course. I mean, if you grant that it is possible actually the soul to exist without the physical body, then there is no logical problem to believe that our life doesn't end with the physical ending, that our soul actually...
What experiments is he talking about? Does anybody know?
No, probably because they don't exist.
That Otangelo is talking about?
Yeah. Brian, you were there. Do you remember what experiments he was talking about?
I'm familiar with some experiments on out of body experience. I do the perspective call in show, so
Okay.
we get a lot of people calling in with claims like that. So there are a few different studies done on out of body experiences where they've done things like put numbers on top of the equipment where you couldn't see it from the ground level, things like that, and the results are not compelling at all. But
Right.
Thomas Westbrook does some great videos on Holy Kool-Aid. He does kind of debunking these kind of
Yeah.
supernatural claims. There's nothing really compelling there, at least not for me.
Yeah, there was they wrote these messages and they put them on top of cabinets and stuff like that. And
I
don't know, nobody ever read them.
I actually have a pretty interesting article here from what's in journals.sagepub.com. Let me open the link and see what we got. I can't remember when it was written, where it's from. February 1st, 2005. And from the article, quote, here the authors marshal evidence from neurology, cognitive neuroscience, and neuroimaging that suggests that OBEs, out-of-body experiences, are related to a failure to integrate multisensory information from one's own body at the temporal parietal junction, or the TPJ. It is argued that this multisensory disintegration at the TPJ leads to the disruption of several phenomenological and cognitive aspects of self-processing, causing illusory reduplication, illusory self-location, illusory perspective, and illusory agency that are experienced as an out-of-body experience. End quote.
Yeah, they've done it with
I
magnets.
can link that
And-
here in the private chat and the YouTube chat.
Remember before when I was talking about all those different maps and when they all come together, they do that in the temporal parietal junction, or the TPG, and that's kind of where your motion merges with color, with what an object is, and also kind of keeps track of where you are in space. And they've been able to manipulate that in a number of different ways, and you completely lose your place in space and get the feeling that you are no longer in your body. And of course, when you start with, like, when your heart stops and your brain starts to shut down and gets all fucked up, that's one of the second things that happen. The first thing is you see a tunnel of light. And again, that primary visual cortex, it shuts down from the outside to the inside. And people that experience anesthesia will frequently have their visual field from the periphery narrow down until it's you can only see the center, and then it turns into kind of a bright white light and then blips out. So they've done a lot of work with that. There's a reason why they see the tunnel of light. It's actually in your fucking brain.
I've had anesthesia before, and holy shit, that thing is good. Whoa, man.
Well, what's cool is
the thing is, like, I can't even feel myself passing out when I have anesthesia.
Yeah. Well, nitrous oxide is cool because they can increase the dose, and they used to give me high doses when I went to the dentist, and you would end up with that periphery getting smaller and smaller. It'd be like you were falling into a well, and then all of a sudden there'd be like this bright light, and then it would go blip, and then I was out. It was just like, it felt like a blip, and then I woke up and I was, conscious again.
The weird thing is, I've had people tell me like that when they've got anesthesia, the nurse will be like, "All right, so count down from 100," and they say like, "I hit 96," and it's the last thing I remember.
Yeah, that's about.
And then they'll wake up and be like, "So when are we starting the surgery?" It's like, "Yeah, we started that 4 hours ago. We're done."
Yeah.
And they're just like, "What?" Like, your sense of time goes all fucky on anesthesia.
Yeah. I only had surgery once in my life, and they would wheel you into this recovery room with about 6 other people. And there was this guy in there singing the Star Spangled Banner as loud as he could as he was coming out of anesthesia. Damn, I wish I'd had I wish I'd had cell phone technology back then so I could have YouTubed that shit.
I've seen some people come out of like anesthesia doing some weird shit.
Oh yeah.
They're doing all sorts of weird stuff. Mama! Mama!
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-oh. I don't know what happened here. Something looks like it's about to be spicy.
Hope you brought your wasabi sauce because it's about to get spicy.
Wasabi. Okay. So I don't know.
Okay.
What do y'all want to do?
Now, what do you want to do?
I
that's
actually
a
thought
very
we
good
were gonna watch one of IP. I thought we were actually going to watch one of IP's videos because I want to kind of see Speed get triggered on the neuroscience.
Oh, fuck.
I'm down for that. Let's do
Which
that.
one you want to watch?
I've watched this thing like 3
I
times
want
now,
you to
so
pick one.
I'm done with it. Not to discourage you from watching it, Speed, if you ever want to sit down and
Okay.
sit through that thing.
Yeah, there's only so. I guess I want new Otangelo material. That's why I wanted to hear about
Hello?
the demons and all that.
It's in there. I just don't have the patience to go through and pick out the part where he talks about. I may release like some supernatural claims by Otangelo or something. Some clips of that. That might actually be fun to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we could put that together and do that sometime, Speed.
Okay.
You know, I also want Otangelo to make new material. I also want him to read Demeter's paper because I think Demeter's paper is interesting. And by Otangelo's admission, he hasn't read Demeter's paper.
Yeah, shit. I haven't got that RNA folding stuff to work yet, and we're supposed to have a meeting.
I don't think
tomorrow.
I ever got a copy of because he's got like 3 or 4 papers, isn't it?
3.
Yeah, I don't think I ever got any of them. I haven't read a single one. I don't know where to find them.
I think they've been linked, haven't they? Didn't we link them?
Yeah,
Somebody
Speed
should link all 3 of them in the private chat.
They're linked so many times in my different videos, but yeah, I could link them again. I could go dig that up, but
Sure,
listen to this?
Yeah.
Want to listen to somebody talk about the brain?
The brain.
The brain.
Feel is just a result of brain chemistry. However, very little data supports this notion, and evidence is
Why are we
piling
starting
up
at 30 seconds
consciousness
in? I didn't hear
is not the result
what
of brain activity.
very little data supports
However,
what.
Very
Like
little
scroll back
data
all the
feel
way to the beginning, like
just a
literally
result
to 0.00000. Like
Oh,
the
he doesn't
beginning
have
of
a-
the
just
video.
a complicated arrangement.
He
of
doesn't have an
particles.
intro?
What are you? Are you an emergent property or function of brain chemistry? Are you just a complicated arrangement of particles? Is everything you are just the
No,
result of the
I'm just a
activity of
boy.
neurons? The popular narrative is that consciousness is somehow created by the brain, and everything we think, dream, or feel is just a result of brain chemistry.
That's his first
However,
mistake.
Very little data supports this notion, and evidence
Foreskin.
is piling up that consciousness
Holy
is not
shit,
the result
Leo.
of brain.
We're 33 seconds in.
Yeah, I wanted to just there were 2 things that I wanted to read for you guys. The first one is an article written in Psychology Today by Clifford Lazarus, who's a PhD in psychology, whose father was the one, I can't remember his father's name, but his father was the one who developed the integrated information theory of the mind, or of consciousness. And in this article, he states, quote, "The prevailing consensus in neuroscience is that consciousness is an emergent property of the brain and its metabolism. When the brain dies, the mind and consciousness of the being to whom that brain belonged ceases to exist. In other words, without a brain, there can be no consciousness," end quote.
That's
The other
just
one-
a
was that?
Dr. Hawk fallacy, though.
No, it's not.
Okay, Leo, who was that?
Clifford Lazarus.
Lazarus. Huh. He is not on my radar.
And it's
Okay.
actually not that fallacy, but sure. I'm going to take the words of actual neuroscientists. Anyway, the second one is a poll, not poll. What the fuck do I want to call it? I guess you could call it a type of poll. I don't really like that word. That was published in Frontiers in Psychology, I believe it was. Let me check the link. I believe it was Frontiers in
Wait, so if
Psychology.
they all change their minds tomorrow,
Frontiers in Psychology, and the authors of the poll write, quote, "We asked participants to rate which consciousness theory they perceived to be most promising. Overall, the global workspace theory was seen as the most promising theory of consciousness, with 28% of respondents adhering to that. On the other hand, among non-experts only, and experts doesn't have a degree. The way that they defined experts had to do with how many papers you had published or how many conferences. There was this particular conference on neuroscience, how many times you've attended that. So it's not saying that you're not an academic. They just had a really specified definition of expert. Anyway, on the other hand, among non-experts only, Integrated information theory was considered the most promising theory, 22% of non-experts. This was true whether expertise was defined as having published more than 5 articles on consciousness or attending ASSC, which was the conference at least once. End quote. And it's worth mentioning that both the global workspace theory and the integrated information theory are explicitly physicalist theories. And they are the two
if they all
leading
change their minds
theories.
tomorrow, you would change your mind?
Probably not, because data doesn't change overnight unless new data comes in.
What's
and there
the
would have
data
to be
that
new
supports it?
that supports what?
The idea that that consciousness is emergent from the brain.
Literally anything. Like, just go into the field of neuroscience and look
All
at
right, so you're not
anything.
going to provide
Literally anything.
You're not
Well,
gonna provide
how many links do
I
you want?
mean,
I can give you a
Danny,
link from neurology.org, from Psychology
do you
Today,
know or
from
do you not know?
Nature.com, from
No, you don't know.
advancement.sciencemag.org, from
Do
Frontiers
you
In,
know
from
or
Science
not know?
Daily, from Science Direct,
Danny.
from the publications of the National Academy of Science. I mean, you just got to tell me
So
how many
this is another
links
way
you
of
want.
saying you don't
Just
know.
give me a number.
I'll do you-
No, just give me a
I'll
number.
do you one
Give me a
better,
number.
Danny. There's a thing called meta studies that are exactly the type of thing you should look out for. And what meta studies are is they're compilations of hundreds of articles in a particular
If not
field,
thousands.
which address a particular issue, such as like the opinion that the brain is, or that consciousness is an emergent property of the brain. And it goes through and cites the literature and explains why the literature has come to this conclusion.
Yeah,
So-
you're accepting the conclusion in virtue of it being concluded by a set of
No.
experts, right? Okay,
No.
well then
No,
give me
no.
the reasoning.
No, Danny, hold on a second.
Can I
No,
answer the
no.
question?
Some of us actually own the books by Bernard Barrs, the Global Workspace Theory, and all of that, and we've looked into it. You know, it's not just accepting. So, if your point is, are we just accepting some professionals? No, I haven't done that. I've read a lot of these books. Okay,
Then give me the argument or the reasoning.
the reasoning behind.
Is the data.
The
Look up
data.
the
That just begs
look
the
up-
question: what's
No,
the data?
No, it doesn't, 'cause it's like saying, give me the argument that general relativity is true. We don't need an
Yeah,
argument.
give you the argument that gravity works.
I'm asking for the
We've
inductive
watched
reason.
it happen. We've watched.
Hey, Leo,
You've
Danny,
seen. What
Holy
have you
shit.
seen?
I don't.
Leo.
I told you how to the data, Danny.
What have
Leo,
we seen?
focus.
We've actually we've
Look at
taken,
my
I'm gonna do some
eyes.
muting. I'm gonna do
my
some
eyes.
muting.
that people are thinking and have displayed them on screens. We've taken words that people are thinking and
God.
had computers
You
read
just
them.
can't turn
We've
off of a
literally
subject.
looked at consciousness in the fucking brain.
Okay,
how do you
Leo,
know there was
somebody wants to
consciousness?
talk, right?
Leo, can you give me the link to that Psychology Today article?
I
Yeah,
think
give
I
me a
did.
second.
I
I'm
think I
about to
put it
drop
in.
I'm about to drop like 16 plus papers on Danny right now.
Wait,
all
what does a
confused.
belief look like?
I put it in chat.
What does
What
a
do-
belief look like?
What is
Okay,
it?
what I
about?
know-
That's a tough one, Danny.
Yeah, the idea is that you can't have consciousness without beliefs or intentional states.
But wait,
So
who
what does
said-
it look like?
Who said consciousness was material?
What does it look like? What a stupid question.
Yeah, well,
Wait, no,
what is
but
it that
he's-
you're perceiving that establishes the conclusion?
He's presuming that anybody here has argued that consciousness is material. I don't think anybody has.
I can see motion. That presumably you can, but that's not material.
Okay, Danny.
Can you see motion, Leo? Is that material?
Okay,
Yes.
Danny, you're so far off base on this asking what a belief looks like. There are
I'm just
things
asking, what is it that you have to observe to say that you observed a belief?
I don't think anybody made the claim that you can observe a belief, so I don't know why you're bringing
Wait,
that up.
Yeah, I
isn't
don't
the
know.
claim that consciousness is emergent of the brain?
Well,
Well,
is
you
that
could-
the claim? No, that's
Then
not
what's the claim? I'm mistaken then.
That's not the
Okay,
claim.
hold on a minute. So I talked before about how they can actually observe a person imagining an airplane, right? That is because there is a sheet of neurons in the back of your brain in the occipital lobe that map directly to your retina. Okay, from there, it goes through a complex switching network, like an AI layer. When they do AI, when they train up an AI, they have multiple layers, right? And on the outside, they have the input, and on the inside, they have the result. Nobody knows how those layers work. There's no way to look at those layers and say, oh, this is how it's recognizing the number 1 or the number 4. So you're asking what a belief looks like is the same exact kind of thing. By the time you get to the point where we would map out a belief, the only thing we could do is come up with a CAT scan, an MRI, or PET scan or something, and we could tell you that these areas, these particular neural sheets and cortical columns light up
But you're not going to look at that and say, oh, I see a belief in the same way that you see an airplane in the occipital lobe. Do you understand?
How is it that you make the correlation?
How do you make the correlation?
Yeah.
If a person is believing something, okay, if they can
How do
get
you
them
know
in
that?
if they could get them in a state where they're thinking about a belief, a meta belief that I believe something, right? And we get them in that state. And we put them in that state through a number of different.
But how do you know that they're in that state? That's the problem.
You're fucking interrupting me.
Yeah, I'm interrupting for a good reason.
We can see that state in the brain.
Okay, so if you put them in that state over and over again, and so that you get some correlation of a brain area, then you can be pretty sure that his belief has something to do with that area. Now, that's how we would map out a belief, but you're never going to see anything that looks like a belief. I mean, that is a ridiculous idea, a ridiculous question, a ridiculous argument for you to make.
Can I draw a really quick?
What argument have I made? Wait, what argument have I made?
Can I draw a really quick parallel?
Wait, he just said that I made an argument. What's the argument that I made, Speed?
Can I draw a really quick parallel?
Presumption.
What's the presumption?
I'll take that as a no.
That beliefs are material.
That's his presumption?
That was your presumption.
No, I don't think they're material.
No, it's mine.
Okay, well, that's a problem.
Yeah, the mind.
Why is that a problem?
Because the mind.
Where in the hell do you think a belief is if it isn't somewhere in your cortex?
It's a mental state, but that doesn't mean it's physical or material necessarily.
Well,
how could it not mean that it's physical or material? Where is it? If it can't leave your brain, where the fuck is it?
We've got issues here. Material and physical don't mean the same thing.
Well, something that's physical is material, right?
Well, something that is material is physical, but something that is physical is not necessarily material.
Yeah, we can have fields basically.
But yeah, like quantum fields are not material, but they are physical. But I wanted to draw a parallel to something that you said, Speed, that we can't you can't really say what a belief looks like in the same way, but it's still a thing. It's still there. It's still physical. It still has an effect in reality, just like a quark or an electron. There's no way to know what an electron looks like. That's just not a thing. An electron doesn't look like anything. Electrons are real. Electrons are physical. We can still define them and measure them.
Good analogy. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just asking, how do you know that something is thinking?
How do you know that something is that we can see?
How do you know I'm thinking right now?
How do I know you're thinking?
No, it doesn't follow into solipsism. It's solipsism. It's to show that no matter what you observe, you're not going to observe my belief.
I've never had any evidence that you think, but as far as being able to watch somebody think, they know a lot about the mechanism of thinking, and it's a lot like the mechanism of walking or moving. And and of course, there's a lot of controversy yet over this because we're still exploring it. But basically, thinking is exapted movement in an animal.
I got
You're not getting it.
I got a thought experiment for Danny on this. It kind of involves what we talked about earlier. So, the airplane. So when you think of an airplane and you're visualizing it in your head, that's what you believe an airplane looks like. That's a belief, right?
Not the visualization.
If you're visualizing, say you've never seen an airplane or whatever, or something you've never seen, but has been described to you, and you visualize it in your head, and they were able to
see that. Yeah.
See that.
Yeah, I already said that the visualization itself is not a belief.
Yeah, he's not going to buy that.
It's the product of a belief. Is would
it might be? It might be produced by belief.
That isn't going to help him move his.
I can intend to visualize.
What kind of baggage are we putting on the term belief?
I just mean some kind of attitude towards a proposition. I take it to be true. Take some proposition to be true. Or I take something to be desirable, or I take something. I mean, those are just beliefs or desires, I suppose. Yeah, intentions.
Okay, I believe my car is out in the garage. Okay, that's
what about
belief we'll use as an example. So I believe that. So I have some disposition. There's something about my mind that made me speak that phrase, right? Because I do believe my car's in the garage. I hope the fuck it's still there. There's been a lot of theft lately. But anyway, so I believe my car's in the garage. So there's something about my brain that made me say that thing, right? And those are things that we can do scans on. And if we're very, very careful and we use multiple tests and correlation, we can actually map out some of the areas where that car thing is stored in my brain. So
the problem is that you can't establish a correlation without already assuming that there's a mental state.
Well,
but
yeah, if you believe bullshit, like
but isn't a belief
you're going to the non-serious mode now, Speed.
But it isn't a belief or reaction though that you're having to the proposition. It's not a thing. It's a reaction that
it's a reaction. Yeah. So beliefs are dispositional. So the belief is like a dispositional network of things in your brain that will cause you to behave in a certain way.
That's just begging the question.
That's all a belief is.
That's begging the question.
Begging the question. How is that?
Because the idea you're just saying you're just reasserting that it's physical, but I'm saying how is it that you know that anything is mental in the first place?
Okay, if a cat sees a mouse and the mouse runs under the bookshelf, the cat will sit there and wait for the mouse. The cat believes that the mouse is under the bookshelf, even though the mouse is now in the fucking laundry room, which frequently happens around here. Okay, but the cat has a belief that the mouse is under the bookshelf. So the cat is disposed to act in a certain way. That's all a belief is that disposition.
You're not answering the question. How do you know the cat has the belief?
How do I know the cat has the belief? Okay, common sense will tell you the cat has a belief.
That's just begging the question.
Okay. There are behaviors that the cat exhibits which are consistent with that belief being held by the cat.
But the thing is that those behaviors are consistent with the cat not having the belief as well.
How are those consistent with
how is that? Why would a cat wait for 4 hours staring at the bookshelf?
Speed, call on my name when I can say something because I have something really, really important here.
Leo,
really,
it's
really
your
important.
turn.
Okay, so I looked this up. This is from. Let me highlight this so I don't lose my place.
Are you going to share your screen?
Can you link it?
No, I will when I'm done reading. I'll link it. This is Belief Formation: A Driving Force for Brain Evolution, from Rudiger. I'm assuming Seitz and Hans Ferdinand Angel. I don't know how that would be pronounced. Do we have a date on this? Received the 2nd of September 2019. This is fairly recent, actually. Awesome, cool. Where was I?
Oh, I want to see that.
Where was I? I was just about right here. We go. Therefore, we favor let me make sure I'm starting in the right spot that I just lost. Yes, I am. Therefore, we favor a translational approach that differentiates between certain philosophical terms and empirical findings. Specifically, we argue that a belief is the subjective probabilistic assumption concerning environmental information to which a subject becomes exposed. Note that rapidly formed empirical and relational beliefs do not rely on language and thus do not necessarily represent consciously held propositions. Furthermore, similarly to primal beliefs, advanced conceptual beliefs also pertain to neural processes. This corroborated by the finding that language-bound conceptual beliefs were affected subconsciously by contradictory statements, which was paralleled by attenuated signals of neural processing. In our opinion, these data substantiate our processual conception of belief formation, but should also be reflected against a philosophical background according to which a so-called doxastic agent gets to decide voluntarily what to believe. As a discussion of whether voluntary generation of action is an illusion would go far beyond the scope of this article, we limit the discussion on our neuroscientifically based hypothesis that beliefs are probabilistic, meaningful accounts with subjective credibility. So beliefs
nowhere
are
in there was there an argument.
Beliefs,
Can you link
because
that?
that's not how
There's just a
science
bunch of
works.
assertions.
See, this is the thing, but there actually wasn't. But you won't get it, and it's not because you're stupid or anything. You just don't understand how scientists speak. You don't understand how empirical. You don't understand what about beliefs. Well, I just showed that it is. I just showed that it is, and this is all I'm going to say. Let me finish. This is all I'm going to say. If you are truly that interested, you will read this article. Simple as that.
That's like asking you, look, to know what 2 + 2 = 4, read the biology book. It's just not relevant.
Oh my God.
So you don't believe that beliefs originate within the brain?
Hey,
Sorry,
Leo, will you please link that article for me?
That would be
it's in the private chat. I'll link it in the YouTube chat.
Tethered
as well.
pretty good to neurology. Your neurologist asks you questions about your beliefs, like when you come out of like a brain surgery or something. They'll ask you things regarding your beliefs and in regard to your brain state, right? So that would
the
pertain to
problem is that
science,
when a
medical science.
When a neurologist asks me what I believe, everything I'm saying, everything they are hearing is consistent with me not having those beliefs.
Danny, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible for an agent to form beliefs if they received absolutely no perceptual information whatsoever?
You're just asking me if I'm an empiricist.
That's not what I asked you.
That's what
That is
empiricism
not
is.
at all. No,
I don't
not.
take a
That's
position.
not. That's not what
Repeat it.
empiricism is.
What do you take empiricism to be?
Empiricism is the idea that one is justified in believing something only if it can be empirically demonstrated. But that is not what I asked you.
No, that's not empiricism.
That's
right?
literally what empiricism is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
We get our concepts from experience. That's all empiricism is. Okay.
Well,
We
that's
don't
one
have it.
point.
We don't. Empiricism rejects innate concepts. Look at the difference between rationalism and empiricism. And rationalists want to say that they're innate concepts. Empiricists say no, there are no innate concepts. We get it from experience. That's what that.
I feel like you're just dodging the question, honestly. So let me ask you again.
I don't.
Is it possible for an agent to form beliefs of any kind if they receive absolutely no external stimulation from some external reality? Could you form beliefs?
Well, I'll just say you're asking a very good question. This is not an easy question, okay? Because it comes down to my view about stuff like empiricism and rationalism. Now, I think that at the very least, there are certain kinds of knowledge and beliefs and concepts that can only be gotten from experience. So there's a sense in which I do agree, but I think there's certain concepts like truth, for example, okay, that are just constitutive of agency. That's innate. Truth is an innate concept with an agency. So that's why I have difficulty with your question.
Okay. I mean, I don't have difficulty answering. My answer to it would be primarily yes, but the only other way that we could receive beliefs is if they're innate through evolutionary biological processes.
What about truth? Do you think we get truth like that concept? We get that from experience? I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. Yes. I don't know the answer to that question, but that's a very difficult question that I'm not settled on. Because it seems like if you're an agent, by definition, you must have a concept of truth, which means that if there's an agent on your view, this is not a crazy view to have, that if there's an agent, there has to be an environment, okay? Which is something like what an empiricist would want to accept, okay? At least, but there are certain rationalists that would accept that as well. They're just going to construe dependency relations with causal relations between agency and the environment. Do you want to? I'll go. I don't care where, when, or privately or publicly. I'll go with you through that article, whatever article you want me to go, and I will go sentence by sentence, and I'll point out why it's just not reason giving with respect to my question.
What do you consider a proper reason that would suffice to answer your question?
A proper reason? You're asking me what would serve as justification?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, so we're asking what's justification for the belief that something like agency is understood in terms of brain states or brain activity. Is that what you're asking me? Yeah, to me there can't be a justification for that claim because I think it leads to contradiction.
Okay. So it's not that it doesn't exist; it's just that you wouldn't accept it as being.
It's like the question to me, at least for me, is like, what would be justification for thinking that 3 is 5, or that a bachelor is married? You know, I mean, there is no. It's impossible. So there's no such justification. At least that's how I see it. I know that.
Well, those are characteristics of those terms, though. You say 3 is 5. No, because we understand that 3 is definitively not 5.
Exactly.
So,
I mean,
I understand agency definitively as not the environment. It comes down to this. Another way you can think of it is that if you distinguish between subject and object, if you distinguish first-person point of view with third-person point of view, then it can't be that things that are understood in the third-person perspective can be understood in terms of the first-person perspective. Brains are third-person perspective things that can be studied by the sciences, Okay, first person points of view can't be understood that way. So there's just a huge ontological line between first person point of view and third person point of view, or third person perspective.
You don't think it's possible for there to be signals within the third person point of view that could help extrapolate what the first person point of view is?
No, well, look, to say that there are things in the third person point of view that affect the first person point of view, that's fine. If the neurologists are in the business of doing that, there's no problem with that. After all, psychology.
And essentially, it seems to be a reverse engineering process. Like there's certain characteristics that are symptomatic of a person having or expressing a certain type of belief, and you can trace those connections to figure out what the person is believing or was believing.
Well, look, I'm listening to the sounds of your voice right now, and I'm making inferences about what you believe and what you're intending to say. Okay, but how I'm saying that, if I were to say that those sounds coming out of your mouth are just going to establish an identity relation between those sounds and your beliefs, everyone here is going to reject that. I'm saying we shouldn't make the same mistake with respect to MRI scans or whatever.
So what do you think is missing? I mean, what's the ghost of the machine?
What is missing? Sorry, you're going to have to elaborate.
Well, I mean, you think that there's some kind of discrepancy between having... What I'm hearing is that you think there's some kind of discrepancy between describing physical states and, like, the actual state of a belief itself.
Okay, so let me remind myself what I just said. I was saying that in the same way that we shouldn't identify the sounds coming out of my mouth with the intentions that I have, we shouldn't identify the correlations between brain states and whatever presumed mental states that person might have.
Right, but so if the sounds like aren't sufficient to tell me like what the point you're trying to communicate, what else should I add to that equation to?
The sounds and the brain scans might give you what the beliefs are, okay? But they're not going to identify the beliefs as those things, right? So you're hearing all sorts of sounds, and then you're inferring what my beliefs are. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to dispute that kind of epistemology.
Wait, speed, don't go yet. Share my screen.
But so you seem to say that, okay, it's fine that we're doing that, but there appears to be something that appears to be an incomplete description about what the belief itself is.
Well, you understand that you're making inferences as to what my beliefs and intentions are from the sounds of my voice, right? Okay?
Sure.
I'm just saying that you and I would agree that it would be mistaken to say my beliefs and intentions, right, can't be identical to the sounds coming out of my voice. That seems silly. Although we're using the sounds of my voice to know what my beliefs are. Okay? So what I'm saying, apply this to brain scans. Okay? You scan my brain.
So
I'm fine. Go ahead.
So what I'm trying to infer here, I mean, is that do you think that beliefs are so that the identity of the belief is contingent upon the person claiming the belief? Like that me saying a car is red, for that belief to be like properly identified, is contingent upon me saying like that utterance that the car is red? Or
can you elaborate?
Like, for instance, I mean, if I were in a brain scan, for instance, they can do tests that tell me like what various parts of my mind are doing and how that relates to that type of utterance. And for me, I would take that as sufficient evidence to say, I would say that those brain states are representative of my belief.
You would take, but how is that not just like the case where someone's equating the utterances, the sounds out of my mouth, with my beliefs? I don't see the principal distinction.
I just want everybody to know that what I'm sharing just tells us that like the development.
I'm reading that. Yeah.
Okay, I'll address it. Let me address it.
And changing of beliefs is literally it's brain chemistry. Like,
look, y'all are straw manning me. I'm not saying neurology can't get us to what the beliefs, how we know what beliefs that a person might have. I don't want to dispute that. It might be that the frontal lobe plays a big role in terms of what beliefs I have. But
No,
that's
no. That's not what it's saying. It's saying that what beliefs are and how they're developed is brain. So it's not like, well, what types of belief we're going to have is that the brain beliefs are the result
read
of
it
brain
together.
of brain stuff.
I'm gonna read it. Total.
Yeah, from right there, total brain function. That's saying
Look,
that the brain
okay.
function is physical. It's developing.
Let me
the
read it.
beliefs.
Let me read it. Let me read it. Total brain function is required in stabilizing the belief and in responding to environmental system. That is not incompatible with dualism. That sentence is not incompatible with dualism. A dualist could accept that. Okay. Let me read you some of the brain regions in the neural circuits are very important in establishing beliefs and executing emotions. Once again, that seems to just be establishing a dependency relation, not an identity relation. Okay, so that is technically compatible with dualism. Let's go to the third sentence. Frontal lobes play a major role in beliefs, compatible with dualism. All of what you highlighted is compatible with my view.
So you believe that the brain, that consciousness emerges from the brain?
I agree. If you're saying there's a dependency relation, or if there's a cause-effect relationship, that's not what I want to dispute. I want to dispute identity.
I also like this one right here.
And I guess the difference in identity comes down to, like, if I say the car is red, there's the potential for that state to be true or false. Whereas the physical states that are representative of that state cannot be true or false.
And that's precisely like that's Leibniz's Leibniz's law, or indiscernibles, law of indiscernibles. The idea that for A to be B, for A to be identical to B, all the properties must be shared between them. Okay, so if A has a property that B does not, they're just not identical.
Well, I'm not.
That's a classic example of identity. Otherwise, what is identity? Just identity. You're saying if A is the same thing as B, we expect there to be all the same properties between A and B.
Okay,
Leo,
I have hang on a second. I have something to interject. That a while back, Danny and I had a conversation, and so this is what he believes. If I took Danny and I cloned him exactly, and I cloned his environment and made 2 copies in 2 different places, Danny believes that even though exactly the same thing was happening to him in both environments, and he was physically identical, he believes that they could have 2 different beliefs or 2 different thoughts.
No. Let me
said
clarify.
that.
No, you misinterpreted me. You always do. You can quote me, find that clip, and you can see that you misunderstood. Let me be very clear about what I said again.
Okay.
This is what I said. I said take the me now. I'm saying that in another world there could be my body without my beliefs. That's to say the exact same brain state, but no belief. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. And that is basically what I said. It could be 2 different
you did not
things.
say that.
In other words, no, you said there are 2 different, basically you could have 2 different thoughts and the same brain states. So that the same brain state would basically not correlate with the thoughts. That there could be 2 different thoughts and identical brain state.
There might
right?
not even be thoughts.
What?
I'm saying there's a place, there's a world in which I have the exact same brain state and no thoughts.
Okay.
Okay.
Speed, I have a question.
That's non-physicalism. So
yes.
Okay.
Leo, is that
didn't go back.
or a different one?
What?
I will find that clip, by the way.
That's fine.
I did
I
want to
have a
ask you another question, though. Like, okay. Did you want to do something first, Leo? I don't mind.
No, I just have a question that Speed might be able to answer. Because this paper that I'm looking at mentions TOM, capital T, lowercase o, capital M. Let me just give you a sentence. The first sentence here. There is extensive discussion on whether spontaneous and explicit forms of TOM are based on the same cognitive or neural mechanisms, or rather reflect qualitatively different processes. What does TOM mean? Because it doesn't.
Is that
give me
tomography
any.
or?
Yeah, it doesn't give me. It's a theory of mind. Theory of mind.
Oh,
okay.
theory of mind. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
go ahead, immutable.
What I was going to ask you, and maybe this is the wrong word, but do you think like that there are different like heuristic representations of the same thing? Like, for instance, like we're talking about beliefs, where like a psychological state of belief, for instance, can be like one where, like with a red car, where I can believe, like I can have a belief about a red car, and that belief may be true or false, but that belief can still be equivalent to like the physical process that generates that belief, which is all the fancy brain chemistry that that represents that belief, which cannot be true or false because it's already been determined.
What you just asked is one of the that's so impressive, right? What you just asked, you've stumbled upon Frege's sense and reference, right? The idea is that there could be one referent, but two different senses that refers to that referent. Okay. I guess one example, maybe a poor example to understand what you just said, is that, and this is not precisely analogous to what you were saying, but Superman and Clark Kent, these are two different senses, okay, but they have the same referent, okay? One can have a sense of Clark Kent and not have a sense of Superman, and one may have a sense of Superman but have no sense of Clark Kent, but they're referring to the same thing in the world. So what you're asking me is, could there be this thing in the world in which we use psychological terms that can express truth, the possibility of truth and falsity, and that could there also be a different sense in which we can just use chemical terms or brain terms, right? But that'd be referring to the same thing. And this is one of the classic responses, right, to what I'm saying, and it's impressive that you came up with it. But there is an argument against it, and it's called the more Frege, more Pincer argument, because what you've done is given they say, hey, look, I understand that the senses are not the same. So psychological terms are not the same thing as brain terms, right? But they can refer, like in the same way that Hesperus and Phosphorus and Superman and Clark Kent can have the same referent, psychological terms for this state and these brain terms for the same state can both be senses for the same thing, right? So there's not a tension here, right? I can just be colloquially talk about my mental state in terms of psychological terms, and then when I'm in the lab, I'm going to use brain terms, chemical terms, right? When I'm referring to that thing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So there's a complicated argument called the more Frege, more Pincer argument, because sense and reference came from Frege. Okay. And I don't know if I feel slightly unprepared to present it. And it's not easy to understand. It's hard for me to communicate, and it's hard to understand at a first glance. But my YouTube channel has a Kilbil Grami presenting the argument. It's called the Pincer argument, and it's already, since that video he came up with the argument. He explains it in that video, and I've already put it into chapters, right? So what I can do is freshen up on the argument, and then we can come back. But you've actually are like one of the first ones that gave a real response to what I'm saying, like philosophical response.
Okay, well, we can side this for now and just come back to it when we're both mentally fresh and able to respond to it.
Yeah, because the idea is that why can't we just switch terms, right? When I'm doing when I'm referring to this thing, I might be using mental terms. In this case, in this other case, I'm just using chemical terms.
Right.
But I think one thing to think about is, obviously you can't have two senses that contradict, right? So let's say your one sense that refers to, let's say, this referent X has the property of red. That sense expresses red, and then there's a different sense that has the same referent in which the sense doesn't express redness or non-redness, but it expresses length or something, right? The thing is that the possibility.
Wait. There is actually like visually the contradiction you can have by artificially dilating your pupil, your sense of light in the cells that we don't have them anymore, but the pineal eye in reptiles and
Brian, I don't mean to interrupt, but when I say sense, I mean concept. Sense and as I'm using it is a term coined by Frege, has nothing to do with sense perception. I'm sorry I wasn't clear about that.
Okay, that's yes. When you say
My bad.
sense to
No,
me,
that
that's
was my
where
bad.
that's immediately where I go.
Yeah, my bad. No, sense when you hear sense as according to Frege, that just means like abstract object or thing, the content of one's belief. Okay, so if I have a belief that Superman can fly, the sense, one of the senses in that belief is Superman. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, my bad. I wasn't clear about that.
Right.
But yeah,
You're saying they can't contradict each other, these views.
right. So, but the thing is that if my sense expresses color and this other sense expresses length, those are not contradictory. They're just different senses, and they can refer to the same object. So, how you know that you can't have if you have one sense that someone's claiming to refer to X, and some other person has a different sense, but they have contradictory senses, then there's someone needs to revise their concept.
Well, yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, but like if I have if my sense of speed is that he's bald, and then someone else's sense of speed is that he owns the Answers in Atheism channel, those are not contradictory senses. They're just merely different senses, right? But if my sense of speed is that he's bald, and someone else's sense of speed is that he's not bald, well, those are contradictory senses. Someone's wrong. They need to revise their sense.
Well, that would depend on, it'd be dependent on the terminology, because you can say he's bald because he doesn't have any hair on his head, and I could think he's hairy because he's got a big old bushy beard. So
yeah, let's say we're not equivocating. Let's say that we have the same concept of bald, but that is a good, a lot of people do talk past each other when they're talking about their concepts of things.
Right. Yeah. So making sure we speak the same language. Because
or that we use the same term.
But if the terms are being used in the same way, then if my sense of speed is that he's bald, and your sense is that he's not bald, you're making the claim that he's not bald, then someone is wrong. Someone needs to revise their sense, or someone's misinformed.
Well, Speed, anything you have to say? You've been silent throughout the course of my and Danny's philosophical bantering.
Now, Immutable, do you know Detroit?
I've been heating up steak, and I'm getting ready to watch episode 6 of The Expanse. So you're in charge, Immutable.
Detroit, do you know Detroit?
Wait, hold on. Before you go,
sorry,
Speed, I did want to know if you wanted to see these two. There's two articles I have from NCBI and .NL. Everybody knows the website. One is called The Biochemistry of Belief, and the other one is entitled Brain Activation for Spontaneous and Explicit False Belief Tasks Overlaps, New fMRI Evidence on Belief Processing and Violation of Expectation. And they both talk about how the TPJ and then the, what was the other one? Give me a second here. The TPJ and the... Just a few seconds and it should pop up somewhere. What is it? Maybe I can get it out of this paper.
Did you link them in chat, Leo?
I wanted to know if you wanted the temporal parietal junction, the TPJ, and the anterior medial prefrontal cortex play a part in the development of belief, and the activity between them can vary based on whether the belief turns out to be true or the belief turns out to be false. And neither of the papers mentions this, but I would myself presume from that the way that those react to whether a belief is true or false could give rise to cognitive dissonance, because we do know that cognitive dissonance actually is a neurological thing that happens in the brain.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm glad we had this discussion, because I'm learning a lot about that. Beliefs actually are neuroscientific. They're the result of brain functions.
Please link those for me, and I will take a look at them, and I'll do it.
Yep.
I'll make sure to download them. We can have more talks about it.
Are you submitting that as your hypothesis, Leo?
Oh, yeah, that would be my hypothesis. Because we already know that cognitive dissonance is a neurological thing. It's something that happens in the brain. And what I would assume is that both the TPJ and the
up with a good list of
AMPFC could potentially be related to that. One of them also showed that God damn it. The thing that has fear responses, not the medulla oblongata. Why? It starts with an A, I think.
Amygdala?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. The amygdala also can potentially have a play into how we how we develop beliefs and what types of beliefs that we hold.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Danny,
what
Danny-
everything. Go ahead.
Danny, before I leave, we had that conversation on Jay Patrick's channel, right? About the
Trying to
identical clone thing.
That was like weeks ago, man.
That was
what
on
is it?
Jay's channel.
That was Jay's channel?
Fantastic.
Yeah, did we talk on Jay's
I
channel?
don't think we did talk on Jay's channel, but I don't think it was about that.
I think it was about that. I think
it
we
was here in
established
this stream. We did talk about Jay's channel, and we did talk about. I talked about mind and body in that channel, and I said that it might be the case that mind is dependent on body. Okay, which is something I'm willing to grant. But I don't think I gave the clone example.
I drew a little diagram and I talked to you about a clone and I asked you about, I think, 2 different thoughts or something like that. Whether or not 2 identical brain states could have 2 different thoughts.
Do clones
And
have?
Okay, well,
independent
I can
identities?
accept that too. But I can accept that too, Speed.
You can. Okay, so you do accept that 2 identical brain states can represent different thoughts.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank
Can
you.
I say one more
I'm
thing?
going to watch The Expanse.
Yeah, can I say one more thing? You should stick around for this, Speed, because then I'm going to take off too. I've been looking at this other paper from 13th of February 2015 by Michael Connors and Peter Halligan from In Frontiers in Psychology called A Cognitive Account of Belief, a Tentative Roadmap. And I really liked this sentence. Beliefs, well, it's a snippet. I'll just read the whole sentence so people know I'm not taking it out of context. One reason for this neglect, why we haven't really studied beliefs at a cognitive level, one reason for this neglect is the assumption that unlike more established and accessible modular psychological processes, vision, audition, face recognition, motor control, language processing, beliefs comprise more distributed and therefore less accessible central cognitive processes. This is one of the reasons why I think consciousness is this. People think that consciousness is this thing that's, well, it requires a brain in some senses, but it's not reducible to it, is because you can't point to a part in the brain and say, yep, that's where consciousness is. Same with beliefs. You can't point to a part of the brain and say, yep, that's where beliefs are. It's
that's what I was
so
saying about
distributed over the whole brain that it becomes hard to access the cognitive side or the neuroscientific side of what it is, how it forms, what have you.
Leo,
Yeah, that's what I was saying about networks being that it being basically a diffuse network, and it's almost and so the idea of show me a belief is kind of ridiculous because you would have to go through
I agree.
tremendous mathematics in order to do that. Right?
Leo,
It's just
I
like,
need
well,
you to
show
level
me
with-
consciousness. Go
Leo,
ahead.
I need you to level with me, and I'm going to speak conditionally, meaning you don't have to accept anything I'm saying, but I'm just saying I'm just going to speak with ifs, okay?
Okay.
If I have an a priori argument, right, that is contradictory to say that some mental state is some physical state, what follows from that is that all of the studies that you're reading are just mistaken if they are claiming that a brain state or brain activity is in some way identical to beliefs and desires and qualitative states. Okay? So if I can show a contradiction, okay, then that means that the studies that you're reading cannot establish, no matter how hard you look, an identity relation.
Between brain states and mental states.
Right.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I don't think that brain states and mental states are perfectly identical. I think mental states are brain states plus numerous other physical things that are occurring across the brain, such as the perception of external stimuli from our surroundings, things that are happening in the rest of the body.
States, nonetheless, right. The point is that if I show a contradiction between saying some mental state is some set of physical states or a particular physical state, if I show that to be contradictory, then your studies will not help. It's the same thing that if I establish that it's a contradiction to say I'm a married bachelor, okay, that it doesn't matter what you investigate in the world. That's just always going to be false.
I mean, conditionally, yes, that's true. But I would argue that since these studies seem to show that that's not the case, it seems to show that one couldn't actually demonstrate a contradiction.
Well,
Could you mislead your mental state to believe to make your to have the physical state respond to it as if the mental state were a fact when it's not? I mean,
can you repeat yourself, Brian? Sorry,
I'm trying to think of a way to word this properly. you can deceive your mental state, right? I mean,
Oh, that's
potentially.
tricky. It depends on what you mean by deceive. I think you could certainly
Basically externally convince your mental state that the physical state is different than it truly is, objectively.
That's so tricky. Look, I think this is my view, and you don't have to adopt my dualist view to accept this. I think, but maybe. I'm just saying that what it means to say that some belief is mine is that I have a kind of access to it. If I have no access to a belief, it's just not my belief. Okay. So if you're saying that in a case where I deceive myself, or are you suggesting that there's some belief that I no longer have access to? Or is that what you meant? I'm sorry.
Yeah, essentially conditioning your brain to accept that the physical state is different than what you would have perceived it as previously.
I mean, I can come up with a thought experiment to get at what you're saying, but like, let's say the neurologist scanned you, right, and said, well, you actually are attracted to sexually to trees. Okay. And
that's a good well, I mean, not the trees things, but yeah, like conversion therapy kind of stuff, where they say, they say that you can condition someone to respond differently.
Yeah, I think all that's pseudoscience. That's my view. But the point is that if the person if they scan your brain saying that you have this ungodly attraction to some object that you weren't aware of, and they showed you all the studies, all the other correlations, other people demonstrated the same sorts of physical features as and they claimed that they had this weird sexual fetishes, right? And they provided all this information. I just don't see why you're not epistemically warranted, right? That you have the right to say, sorry, I just don't have those attractions.
Sorry.
Can you convince your brain to associate things that you normally wouldn't associate with sex, to sex, a smell, like say you had a sexual partner who wore a certain smell or certain scent of perfume. You can condition your brain to respond sexually to that smell, and there's nothing sexual about that smell.
If I've understood you, Brian, I think that's fine. I don't think that's particularly, I don't want to dispute that. That seems compatible with what I think. But I think if I understood you correctly, I think you can. So that's just, to me, that just sounds like you're developing dispositions or habits, right?
Yeah, but you're conditioning the brain to have a emotional response.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. I don't see a problem with the intention of like.
So that's kind of where I was going with what you all were, the direction this conversation was going previously about. So if you can trick your mental state into like, for instance, you know how to make this person respond to like sexually by putting this perfume in the air. You can control that. You can alter their mental state without there being any of the normal stimulus that it would take to put them in that mental state. You're using that's what I meant by trick, I guess.
If I understand you, it seems compatible with my view.
Can I chime in really quick? Because I'm going to get ready to take off, but I did want to say really quickly. I saw that Lil PP was streaming tonight, and him and Emery are going off about politics. It's fucking hilarious. Oh shit! But I'm gonna head out, guys. I'm hungry, and I want to cook a steak. Maybe
everybody's having a steak tonight.
All right.
Are you leaving, Leo?
Yes, I am. Okay, I'm leaving you, Danny, since apparently you're my bisexual lover. I don't know how that works, but hey, I'm gay for people I didn't even know I was gay for when I'm not gay.
You're breaking his heart, Leo. Come on, you're making him come on the camera. We're gonna see.
You're muted, Danny.
It's just your brain states, right? Your brain states are bisexual.
Yeah, must be. Yeah. It's my brain states that Emilia Clarke is a very, very attractive person. 100% physical. I'm actually not being sarcastic. I think it is, but yeah. Anyway, I'm out of here, guys.
Later, Leo.
Peace out.
I think is LPV stream interesting? Let's see who's there.
I never consider his streams to be interesting, so
So-
that's all.
I have fun. Oh, there's just Emery and LPP right now.
So
Okay.
Danny, I agree. I think I agree with you that mental states and brain states are independent, but they do rely on each other, right?
I think there might be a dependency relation, but that's
Right.
a tentative view of mine. But I think it's not what you think. When I say dependency relationship, I mean like something like to interpret the world, you have to do it through something. I think that's the idea. Okay, so the brain, amongst other things, right, and is an instrument, right, of interpreting the world. And if that is sort of necessary, then there is a sort of dependency relation between the mind and the body, or the mind and the brain. Now, you might want to say something stronger, like that if there are no thoughts.
I would nest mental states in brain states, because there's more to brain states than just your mental state. But I think that my opinion is the mental state is a subset of the brain state.
Yeah,
So
there's something interesting that I do need to think about, but I don't think anything turns on it. But like, why is it that there's such a strong correlation between my mental life and what happens to my brain? Right? There is something presumably that explains that, right? If my fingernail comes off, my mental life might not change that much or at all, right? But if someone sticks their fingers in my brain, then my mental life really, really changes, right? And I don't think anything turns on it, but I can see why people are sort of like have that intuition that there's that kind of nesting, as you're saying, right? That there's some kind of stronger dependency relation between the brain and, let's say, like, some other organ, between, my mind and whatever. But yeah, I've kind of lost the intuition myself, but I used to have it. Like, when I was a Christian, I was a physicalist, right? I just thought that God arranged my brain in a way where I had mental states, right? And those brain states were mental states. I thought that the soul was some kind of other thing that didn't really have to do with my mind, that like my mind had some relationship with, right? Now today I reject the soul and I accept the mind as completely distinct from the brain.
About your previous belief, did you believe that you took your mind with you, with your soul, when you died?
To be honest, I didn't think about it that much. Probably, if you had pressed me then, I probably would have said some really dumb stuff.
Interesting.
All right, guys, I'm gonna get going. It's getting really tired. So once B comes back, I'll let him close out. All right, peace.
All right, man. We're going to be quiet now, I guess.
Yeah. Is dualism testable? No, it's unfalsifiable. Dualism is unfalsifiable. It's like, I think math is unfalsifiable too. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. That's talk about irreducible complexity, right? Math.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I'm a mereological nihilist, so the irreducible complexity stuff doesn't make that much sense to me. Actually, most of biology, because like I think that I think what's happening in biology, non-dualism verifiable? Is non-dualism verifiable? No, I think that's unfalsifiable as well. I think physicalism, I think it's incoherent, right? At least for the actual world to be naturalistic. Actually, yeah. What I mean is something like, if there were no agents, then I guess non-dualism would be true. But if there's agency, there's dualism. I think that's how I understand it.
So I was actually surprised to hear you say that about the soul being separate from the mind, because when I hear dualism, that's mostly where where things are rooted for a lot of people, is that they want to believe that the mind is.
Let me tell you something. Soul. I think when Christians and others say that the mind is understood in terms of the soul, to me, they're making the exact same mistake as when physicalists say the mind is understood in terms of the brain. It's the same mistake. That's to say, look, the point is that we can have a concept of the mind and not have to know anything about souls. In the same way that we could understand our minds without knowing anything about our brains. So,
well, and you can understand that I'm in the same way I put your dualism position as a dualistic atheist. I guess I believe that's your position, or agnostic, maybe would be a better term for you. I don't know what you prefer to call yourself, but as long as we both understand where your position is, and I think I do. That puts you in the same camp with them because you believe in two independent entities that would make up who you are as a whole. Whereas I believe it's all the same one, the same entity.
You know what? My dualism is coined this. It's not substance dualism. That's what the Christians believe, right? That's what Descartes believed. I don't think Aristotle might have had a different notion of substance, so he's probably.
There are atheists who kind of dualistic atheists who would take that position too. That doesn't require
right. But my notion of dualism is coined as something called perspectival dualism, right? And what this is, dualism, on my view, just means that look, there's a distinction between subjects and objects. There's a distinction between first person point of view and third person. That's dualism, on my view. Nothing else.
Right? So where did Immutable go?
He said he was going to bounce and that he'd let you close it down when you got back.
Because Brian, if you accept, look, here's the problem, right? And actually, I think most people are dualists without realizing it. The idea is that if you accept the distinction between subject and object, but then at the same time say, oh, well, subjects can be understood in terms of objects, then there's just objects, so no subjects. So there's no dualism, right?
Yeah, I don't accept that dichotomy, the subjective object.
Are you a subject?
Am I a subject? No.
Well, then there's no you.
I don't accept the
dichotomy. There's no I. There's no I.
Well, everything would be a subject, or everything would be physical.
Do you believe
that?
All
well, I think I'm a subject and an object, depending on.
Yeah, depending on
what criteria you're asking about.
I understand it, right? There is what is being viewed and that which is viewing.
No.
Well, I'm talking to Brian. I already know your view, but
okay,
Brian.
So we got a problem.
What's the problem?
Well, I kind of want to go watch TV.
Okay, well then I'll just talk to Brian somewhere else. And if actually, we can just call it a night, Brian. We'll pick this up later.
Yeah, that's fine. This is I think we are breaking some ground here, but yeah. Anyway, it's been fun.
Do you want to talk? Do you want to continue to talk somewhere else?
No, we're good. We can.
Okay,
we can
good. Okay,
up later.
We'll pick it up here.
Hang out with my wife.
I could let it run and just keep an eye on it and end it when you guys are ready, but it's up to you.
You're all right, Speed. I'm ready to
okay.
Crash out anyway.
Okay, see y'all. Thanks, Speed. Bye.
Okay, we're gonna end this. So good night, everybody. Good night. Goodbye, cruel world.
See ya.
Good night.
Okay.